let's get started by talking about Liverpool losing to Forest Janish. Who's struggling most in this Liverpool side?
Who isn't really? I mean, when your two best players are James Milner and Harvey Elliott, you know you're in trouble. Nothing to take away from that, right? But James Milner, obviously at his age, you'd like to see him coming off the bench, maybe as an experienced player to see a result through, right, rather than starting. Harvey Elliott, I think that's a positive in any way, but that is just the issue with Liverpool Football Club because. When they beat Manchester City, I think you and I have talked about this show. I didn't get excited about that because the one thing I said immediately after that was that you get up for Manchester City. Liverpool are one of the few clubs around the world that can deal with Manchester City and deal with them well. But that sort of intensity, I don't think is sustainable throughout the season. And I didn't think Liverpool were going to come up with that. And add to it the absences, the ones that we knew about, and the very latest one just ahead of the game with Thiago Alcantara. That was an ear infection, and Darwin Nunez, who is going to be okay, but still wasn't even available. That's a big issue. And by the way, because we'll talk a little bit about the same thing with Spurs, you can't sustain those sort of injuries when you have 4 or 5 key players out. When you mentioned Diogo Jota and some of the other ones, Liverpool just don't have the depth. Yes, the Liverpool Football Club. Yes, they do spend a lot of money. And yes, we did expect them ahead of the season to challenge, if not win the title. But when you lose players like that, when you're already struggling a little bit in terms of results and you're chasing, it's impossible. It's just simply impossible. Although I will say that they should have gotten a result of some sorts against Forest regardless.
So they are notable absences, as you've just said. They are a good enough excuse then for you, the fact that it is the names that it is.
Absolutely. I mean, you're talking about 4 incredible players who at a time like this, when you're going to go to Forest, I mean, these were desperate times for both teams at both ends of the table, right? Forest relegation changed formation a little bit, which was always going to be defensive, right? I mean, part of the reason Liverpool beat Manchester City is because there was room to play. And this one, you knew there wasn't going to be room to play. And I think Forest did a great job in the center of the pitch because there was all kinds of traffic. It was hard to get through. And who are you getting through? I mean, there isn't a player technical enough there. You're putting all the responsibility on the shoulders of the youngsters like Carvalho and Elliott and Curtis Jones. They're not ready for that. They're not ready for the big time to carry Liverpool Football Club. It's just as simple as that, right? And in the wide areas, Robertson and James Milner did a little bit better, but they didn't have a lot of room to go forward. So Forrest did a tremendous job. But yes, without those 4 key players, those that weren't available, Liverpool were just not good enough. And sometimes you have to live with that.
Speaking of not good enough, I want to put 2 names to you. I want to see what you're going to say about them. Fabinho and Mohamed Salah.
Well, Mohamed Salah has been a little bit better as of late. I think positionally, maybe because he's playing a little bit more central now, right? In that 4-4-2. And there's a variation of that as well. But for the most part, he's more central. I think it's better than it was because it was worrisome early in the season, even when some of his teammates were available. He was off his game, no questions about that. So for him, a little bit better. He had looks. He didn't put them away, but fair play. I'm encouraged a little bit in the last 2, 3, or 4 games when it comes to that. Fabinho, I think the quality of Fabinho is if that midfield around him is strong, right? If he's there to lead it, I've always thought that he's a very, very good player, but that's sometimes not enough. So yeah, I've been disappointed with him for a little bit. But again, the area of the midfield's always been an issue for Liverpool to some degree, right? Robust, very good when the front 3 are doing their job. When the back 4 are at their best, then you can kind of close your eye on the midfield of Liverpool. But when things aren't going well, they couldn't hold that midfield. It was as simple as that.
So we talked about them. Obviously, there's absences. This had felt like some type of mini revival. It was the Rangers game, which Klopp admitted gave them confidence. They went into that City game. They won that. They got through that game against West Ham. And then this against Forest. Feels like they're back to square one. Where do they go from here?
I think it's going to be an up and down season like that. I think you're waiting for a time where they can get healthy and go on a run, which they will go on the run. It's just a question of how far they're going to be away from the top. I think, as we all know, that's too late for that. But obviously, right now, if you're Liverpool Football Club and you see the likes of Newcastle coming on, you're saying to yourself, yeah, we need to finish at top 4. And that's not going to be easy. So
is that the concern now? Because he's already ruled themselves out of the title race. Is that the concern that they're actually going to finish in the top 4 for him?
I don't think it's a concern yet. I think Liverpool will finish in the top 4. I truly believe in that because it's just too good of a team. And everyone's going to have a good patch and a bad patch. So far, it's been bad patches up and down. Every so often, you get the best of Liverpool. But I think when they're healthy, Liverpool will go on that run and will find themselves in the top 4. Simply because if you look at the Spurs, the Chelseas, the Manchester Uniteds, they themselves are very, very inconsistent and at different stages so far. So it's not like we can sit here and say, you know what? Yeah, I mean, second and third, no problem whatsoever. There's going to be a fight between 4 or 5 teams.
Thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis, and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.